Hear ye. Let me tell thee a tale of a man with great knowledge and skill, who delved deep into the mysteries of the mind. His name was Richard Manilow, and he had a binaural psychology degree. Richard had long been fascinated with the power of psychedelics, and he spent years studying their effects on the human psyche. But he was not content with the existing methods of therapy, and so he set out to discover a new way to help people heal. And so it was that Richard stumbled upon the wonders of binaural beats and other sensory stimuli, which he used to synchronize the minds of his patients. He called this new form of therapy syncing, for it brought together the disparate parts of the mind into a unified whole. But one day, Richard found himself at a loss. He had pushed himself too far, and his mind was spinning out of control. In a desperate bid to regain his sense of self, he leapt into a pool and sank to the bottom. It was there, in the cool embrace of the water, that Richard found peace. His mind cleared, and he felt a deep sense of calm wash over him. And when he emerged from the pool, he was reborn, his mind sharp and focused once again. For Richard, the pool was a symbol of renewal and rebirth, a place of refuge and regeneration. And so he often returned to it, seeking solace and inspiration in its depths. And as Richard continued to develop his thinking therapy, he drew him begins to morph and change. We cut to a series of surreal and psychedelic shots.
And that's how I started.
The visuals are chaotic and intense, with colors and shapes swirling around Richard as he moves through a bizarre landscape. Richard. The universe is a symphony of sound and light.
For some of us, it truly opens the doors of existence.
To understanding its secrets. And quote. As Richard moves through this strange landscape, he encounters various characters, each of whom represents a different aspect of the universe. First, he meets a glowing figure who represents the stars and galaxies. They communicate in a language that Richard cannot understand, but he feels a deep sense of connection and awe. Next, he encounters a dark and ominous figure who represents the void of space. This character speaks to Richard in a voice that is cold and harsh, and Richard feels a sense of fear and dread. Finally, Richard meets a figure that represents the essence of life itself. This figure is warm and inviting, and Richard feels a sense of comfort and peace in its presence. Richard, voiceover, I have traveled to the edges of the universe and seen things that no human has ever seen before. And yet, I know that there is so much more to discover. And quote. Gasping for breath. He looks around the room, and everything seems different somehow. He feels a sense of enlightenment and clarity, but also a deep sense of loneliness. Richard unlocked the ultimate secret of the universe, but at what cost? And that knowledge is both beautiful and terrifying. Richard Manilow, but a tiny speck in an infinite cosmos. Cut to a scene of Richard jumping into a pool and coming out of a sensory deprivation tank on the other side, in reverse. His mind is shattered, and he's struggling to hold on to reality. Richard, voiceover, I realized that I am alone in the universe. That I am the Buddha, the only one who has reached enlightenment. And that all of existence is simply a projection of my own mind. And quote. As Richard grapples with this revelation, he becomes increasingly isolated and detached from the world. I spent months lost in thought, trying to make sense of everything. But eventually, I came to accept my role as the Buddha.